I've talked a lot about there's a difference between, he's doing it all, or the weapons are doing it all, or they're working in unison and he's
Yeah.
optimizing a great situation. He's not just a part of a great situation, he is taking advantage of it and optimizing it and bringing it to some of its best levels. And that's kind of where I've been at with Brock Purdy. But he had the reason I called it a perfect game is he had a perfect QBR in Sunday, like yesterday's game, and that was tied with. Do you know if it's Steve Young or Joe Montana or neither of them? Because every single place that I've read this has said it wrong. I think Rob Satsugura said it was Steve Young in
1989. Um,
1989, right? And then on Instagram, the 49ers like actual page put it that it was Joe Montana. And then I was listening somewhere else and they were like, "Oh, the cool thing is that no one in franchise history has done this." And then I was like, "Okay, I know it's been a long time, and whoever did it was one of the best players that's ever played in the NFL." But do you know the correct stat? You're usually really good
I
with
mean,
these.
I'm going to go with the 49ers on this one, whatever they
Yeah,
say, which,
yeah, yeah. I
they
like
said
that.
the last 49ers quarterback to do it was Joe Montana in
Yeah.
1989. What I think, like, I don't know if it was everyone else also getting confused with this, but there was another stat that maybe other people were getting confused with, and it was that Purdy's the first quarterback to throw for 300 or more yards in back-to-back home games since Jeff Garcia did it in the year 2000. Um, Originally, I think it was Josh Dubow from AP. Associated Press, who first tweeted that. But when he first tweeted it, I think he said Joe Montana in 1989. So I don't know if people are getting that confused. I don't know. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the 49ers and say it was Joe Montana, which is like great company, right?
Yeah.
To be
I
in
was gonna say
for.
either way, it sounds like he's just breaking a bunch of records.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, we'll
if
take
people
it.
can't even figure out which one it is because he's destroying. Seems like every game or almost every game. I saw Jordan Elliott. This was a couple weeks ago now, but he's been writing for a place that's important.
NBC Authentic, yeah.
Yes. And he wrote like a tweet and he was like, I think every week I write about a different record that the team is breaking. And that's how I
Yeah.
feel about Brock Purdy, especially when they're I know they had a little lull, but when they're doing well, they're not just like, oh, I'm doing well. They're like Brock Purdy's like, oh, I'm just like casually coming in and like competing with Joe Montana, no big deal. Just breaking Kurt Warner's records. That was the last game. Right. I remember Kurt Warner
Right.
after he was like, man, I was praising this guy, but I didn't know it's gonna start coming from my records. Um, do you think that Brock Purdy is just a sum of his parts? How do you feel about that narrative that he's getting carried by the teams? Do you think he's putting to bed that criticism?
I think what you said kind of encapsulated it perfectly, that it's kind of both, right? Like, I think it's a group effort. It's complementary, as someone else said in the comments. And that's just the truth. Like, does Brock Purdy benefit from the offense and the scheme and Kyle Shanahan play calling and, the weapons he has? Yeah, he does. Like, okay. But he also is doing things on his own that elevate this offense. We talk about like the off schedule plays and just some of the things he's able to do to maybe manipulate defenders a little bit, throw with anticipation. All these things are things that he brings himself to the table. And it just helps the offense look that much better. And you reminded me of a quote that Kyle Shanahan said on KMBR just a few days ago. He was asked about Brock Purdy's risk taking, and he said, "I want a guy who gives us a chance to win the game, not a guy who is just hoping everyone else wins it for them." And
I
I
love
think that's
that.
like it. That was a bar. That was a
I
bar, and
love
I think
that. Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it perfectly tells you the type of quarterback that Brock Purdy is. Like, he isn't just relying on his uh playmakers to make him look good, right? Like, he's also adding to the equation, and he's just as much a part of the 49ers offensive success this season um as those guys, right? So yeah, I think it's a combination, and that's fine. Like, he's a young quarterback. To be able to do that already, I think, is a testament of, how much growth he could show, and has shown already.
I've been so impressed with him. I love the way he keeps plays alive. I love the way that he's able to avoid pressure. I really did. I feel like the Bucks were getting to him, and he would just run to the left, run to the right, throw sidearmed. I mean, he giving people opportunities that we just have not seen quarterbacks in this offense do. And we're wondering, okay, why are these weapons? A lot of, yeah, maybe Christian McCaffrey got here in the middle of last year, but Kittle, Debo, Ayuk, they've been on the team, and it just really does feel like they're all maybe peaking or bringing the best out of each other for sure.
Do you
Last
do
thing
you wanna
for
know do you wanna know a
yeah, tell
crazy stat? Because like, we knew that the Bucks were gonna, like, blitz a lot in this game, and, like, they did, and to your point, like, they did
yeah.
pressure Brock Purdy a lot. His time to throw was 3.1. So, like, he was hanging in the pocket, like,
Ah,
surveying the
love that.
field and all these things.
Love that. There
Yeah,
was
so
there
you
was
love to
one
see that.
There was one the broadcast, like, slowed it down, and I remember the 2 guys that were talking, like, really pointed it out, and when they were replaying, it was a great throw, I think it was to Kittle, it wasn't like it wasn't the huge one, but it was for a first down, and it was that same thing where no one's open, so he kind of has to scramble, and while he's scrambling and then kind of steps up, the camera focused on him, and his eyes are staying down the field the whole entire time.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah.
defender that's right behind him, and, like,
Mhm.
right after he throws the ball, he gets hit, and not that it was, like, the hardest hit ever or whatever, but it's like, he was not worried about, "Is there someone," like, "Am I about to get it?" I mean, like, he's probably aware, try not to, like, fumble the ball or something like that, but it was so impressive that, like, there was, like, no fear is what I'm trying to say, like, he was like,
Right.
"My job is to get this ball, and I know that one of these guys is gonna get open, and I just need to hold it for a second longer, a half a second longer." And it was, I don't know, when they slowed it down like that and they kind of showed how it happened. And I personally don't think that Brock Purdy knew that there was a guy because he was coming from behind. And Brock Purdy kind of ran this way because there was people in front. So he's like running from them, but he doesn't realize he's kind of running into another guy. And it's like, I don't know, the timing of it was just so beautiful. And the fact that he
I
like
think
got that throw off to Kittle and they got the first down and stayed on the field. And it's just like those small things really add up to these longer drives that end up,
yeah.
being scoring opportunities. It's pretty. I just love to see it.
Yeah, and I think that pass to Debo too, where like a lot of people were sharing like the screenshot of Debo with like literally no one around him. It was just Debo surrounded by grass, no defenders. That was an off schedule throw as well. That like Brock Purdy kept his eyes upfield and able to find Debo wide the hell open. So again, just another example of something that Brock Purdy is doing that helps elevate the offense.
Absolutely. Okay. Since